Hi, everyone. Teresa Lisum here for Evolving Women, coming to you with my amazing guest co host, Amber Williams. Hey, Amber. And
Hi.
we're evolving women. I'm evolving, you're evolving, we're all evolving. So, why not go on this journey of evolution together? And to help on that journey, we're here to share uplifting messages, offer new perspectives, maybe give you some tools, some resources, some wellness ideas, maybe some mindset shifts, plant some new seeds so that we all evolve faster. We're also here to give you permission to be your best self. So, welcome. We're so glad you're here. And Amber, I am so glad you're here. Thank you so much.
Thanks for inviting me. Appreciate it.
Sure. Thanks for accepting. So, we're going to switch things up a little bit today. Amber and I have both fell in love with a book, and we're going to talk about elements of the book and some things that we really found impactful. And we're just going to see where that leads us. But we were really eager to share with the world this book. So thank you, Amber, again for pushing me in that direction. Um,
Well, I have
Go
to say
ahead.
thank you because I mentioned the book and then you said you
Yes.
were reading it. And then I'm like, oh, I should probably read this now.
So we just kind of spurred each other on, and I'm
We did.
so glad it happened that way. It's just been amazing. I love all the content, but the book is The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins, and I am listening to it on the audio version. You're listening to
Yes.
Amber? Okay.
Yes.
So you can read it or listen to it, whatever suits you, but either way, I really encourage our viewers and our listeners to get this book. It's really going to change your perspective and how you interact with the people around you. It's just an amazing book. And Mel Robbins, if you get the audio version, reads it. And I love when the author reads their own book. I think that's even better than when somebody
Yeah.
else reads it. So it's just exciting. You could read it and listen to it. Sometimes I've done that simultaneously in in other books, but that's really awesome too. So I'm going to throw it back over to you, Amber. What is this whole concept about let them?
Well, I'll tell you that when I first started thinking about it, there had been a situation where I had, I just didn't know what to do
Mm,
about certain people, a group of people. And I was I was having some very strong emotional reactions, let's put it that
mm-hmm.
way. And it just kind of dawned on me that like I had just read or maybe even just seen the title of Let Them Theory. And I started thinking about let them. If like for me to move past this because I mean it was like 2 or 3 days where
I
it
know.
was I mean I was affected very badly.
Wow.
And finally, I mean, I was praying about it as well. Like, God,
Mhm. Yeah.
what do I do?
Hmm.
And that phrase came to mind. And it was like, let them. I can't change who these people um, are. I can't change the way that they see me. I can only be who I am.
Hmm.
So if they aren't seeing that, if they're not appreciating that, let them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And once my attitude shifted that way, it was so much easier
Mm-hmm.
because I still had to be around this group of people.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I mean, it just made it better. Um, not didn't, I don't know that it changed everything, but my attitude was better, which I think in turn helped their attitude.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I,
That
at least
ripple
that's the way I
effect.
saw it. Who
Yeah.
knows?
Yeah.
But once I truly thought about that and let that attitude shift, that mindset shift,
Mhm.
and it was good. And
Mm.
things and so then that's when I mentioned the book, and you and I started kind of talking about it, and I'm like, oh, well, maybe I should actually read it and everything else.
That's funny that
A little bit more about
just the title alone was helpful for you.
this. Yeah, just that phrase. I
Wow.
mean, because there was a situation right then, I
Hmm.
needed it. That's what I needed. Um, so yeah, that's how it started. I've since, learned a lot more about what it means to let them, um, not just let them think whatever they're going to think, but it's also let me, you know. I did have to look into myself. What was I doing? Are there
Right.
things that I do need to change? Because it's not always that I'm perfect. None of us are, right?
Mhm.
Um, so maybe there was something that I needed, to change, with that situation. But the first thing was I needed to let them have their thoughts, let
Mhm.
them, be who they were, then to look at myself and let me be who I
Yeah,
am.
yeah. Yeah, I love that. And she does, I mean, the first, chapter two is all about let adults have their emotions, let them have their opinions, let them, because like you said, we can't control anybody else. We can only
Right,
control our own thoughts and our own way of reacting and our own actions. That's literally all we have.
right,
And
right.
it's stressful to try to be controlling other people. I
Mhm,
think that's where a lot of people run into their stressors and their overwhelm. They're trying to control everybody else, and you're
mhm.
just going to run yourself ragged doing that.
Yeah.
And this simplifies your life. And I do want to mention, like you said, you were praying, and there's a lot of other tools. This is just one tool to
Mhm.
add to whatever else you might have in your tool belt. But
Right.
it's simple. I said I am absolutely loving it. I think it's doable for anybody. And even if it just shifts one little thing, one little aspect, one little phrase that you can pull out once in a while, that's going to make your life better and everybody else's better, and in effect the whole world better, because if we can manage ourselves, our own thoughts and our own interactions, then again that's going to transfer outward from
Yeah.
us.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I like about it too is that it's not just, a group of people, it's not just random strangers, but we can use this with our families.
Yes.
We can use
Yep.
this with anybody who's an adult, really, right? I think she kind of went into the children versus adult, um,
Right,
how
right.
to how to use this theory with both groups. My Most of my interactions are with adults, though.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
just remembering that I want to have an influence on people, but I
Hmm.
can't change them
Yeah.
and I can't control what their emotions are going to be.
But how you show up, as you said, the let me part, what's my part in this? Because we're
Mhm.
all in this together. We can deny that we have nothing to do with it. It wasn't us, well, which we all know is not true. It takes two, or three or four or
Exactly.
whatever.
Exactly.
But just knowing that we can use that phrase, well, okay, I'm letting them have their opinion. Now let me make a decision about how I'm going to respond, if I'm going to respond. And that's all I can do is control myself. And then it's up to them to make their own choices. But you're right, adults are what we're going to focus on. Kids, it's a little bit different. Um, because as an adult, you do have to kind of, do some
You can't let children
controlling.
do everything.
But so we're specifically talking about adults here. But what one of the points that I noted was she was saying how even people who love us have their own opinions, and they can be negative opinions. And so even though they love us, there's things they don't like about us. So,
Mhm.
and we can't even control those opinions for people who love us and support us. So when we're tied up in a knot about strangers out there on social media or wherever,
Yeah.
having their own opinions and thoughts about us, like when you think about it, it's like crazy. Like, how can that even stop us or cause us hesitation when we're thinking people might be judging us? Like it just sounds absurd just saying that out loud, but yet we do it all the time. I know I do it all the time.
Well, so a week or so ago, driving down the highway, I was in three-lane highway. I was on the far left lane. Lady behind me kept flashing her lights at me. She was waving me to get over. And I'm like, there are cars right here. I can't get
Yeah,
over.
yeah,
Now,
yeah.
well, I finally did when I could. Oh
hmm
my goodness. I looked at her. I should not have looked at her because you never should do that, right? Sorry.
You're right. Don't make eye contact.
But I looked at her and she was giving me the finger. And all I could do was just laugh. But, you know, if I was not in the right mindset, that would have been something that just ate at me.
Oh my gosh,
So
yes.
like, and how many of us do that though?
hmm
I don't even know who this person was.
Right. And why should her
Let her.
opinion matter?
Exactly. Let her. I
Yeah.
was being safe by not getting over into a lane
hmm
where another
hmm
vehicle was.
Yeah, that could have
So
definitely gone into some road rage if you had been a different type of person or, whatever.
exactly.
Yeah, it could have
Exactly.
gotten
So,
way more complicated. Um, and this ties right in with that from Mel's book. Give other people permission to have a negative opinion about you. So like just give them a permission, like know that they're going to have negative thoughts. Okay. Instead
mhm,
of being offended by that or take it personally, just like they're allowed to have a negative thought about me. Okay.
right. And wow, when we are able to embrace that, I guess,
Yep. Yep.
like what a shift.
Mm-hmm.
The way that we see other people and see ourselves too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
It's
people,
like
not everyone's going to like me, and
right.
that's
It's
okay.
like liberating and
It
freeing.
is.
Like,
Yeah,
okay,
there's a
I give
freedom
you
in that.
permission to not
Absolutely.
like me, like we can't get 8 billion people to like us or however
Mhm.
many there are on the planet now.
Can
But
you imagine? Would you even want that many people to like
no,
you?
no, that's a good point. But yet we cause ourselves, and I'm speaking from experience, we like I did make decisions based on that.
Yeah.
And so like because of fear of judgment, a fear of those
Mhm.
strangers that have an opinion about me can keep me from taking it action. It's
Mhm.
like I said, like I just mentioned, it's just absurd. It's all these stories we're creating in our head that we really have no business doing. But if we give them permission and say, okay,
Mhm.
let them, I knowingly know that some people aren't going to like me. I mean, that just like, I can just feel like the stress come off my shoulders.
Yeah. Yeah. We can, we talk about authenticity so often that it's almost one of those words I don't like anymore.
Mm,
But when we can give people permission um, to not like us, it kind of feels like we can be more of ourselves.
Good
Uh,
point. Good
like,
point.
it's okay. People aren't going to like me because I talk about my faith or I
Mhm,
talk about prayer or,
mhm.
and that's okay. They don't have to like me, but this is who I am.
Right. And let them weed themselves out, then they
Exactly.
don't have to pay attention to you then. That's
Hmm.
their choice.
Yep.
Yeah, I said these are simple concepts,
Hmm.
but to really embrace them and let them shift you could be the harder part.
Yeah.
Giving people
Yeah.
permission not
I
to
mean,
like us.
I don't know about you, but I'm certainly not in a perfect place yet where I'm always thinking, oh, just let them.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, right. 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 And
I'm not there yet. It
yeah.
still takes a bit before I'm like, oh yeah, I just have to let them.
And everything's a journey, everything's a practice. And this is no different from that. Just as yoga or whatever is, it's an ongoing practice. We will never
Good
want to
point.
get there. We never want to get
Yeah,
there, you know?
yeah, yeah. Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah, I'm just looking at my notes because I was telling Amber when I was listening to the book, I was like texting myself so I could remember a lot of the points because I loved so many things about it. So many things about it. There was at one point she said, like, you know how we have self-talk, we talk to ourselves, and I'm guilty of this, guilty, guilty, guilty up until recently. But again, it's not a done deal. I still deal with it, but I'm not enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. People have these stories they say about themselves. I'm
Hmm.
not young enough, whatever it is. And she's like, for who? For whom? For who? For who? You're not smart enough for who? Like she was just asking these questions. And I'm like, oh, dang, like, good question. I'm
Yeah,
not enough for who?
right, right. Yeah, that was part of it. I should admit that I have not listened to the entire book yet. I
That's
think I'm at
okay.
like chapter 14. I don't even know how many book
Oh,
chapters there are.
yeah, I don't know where that came from, but like where in the
Yeah, I
book,
have seen
but
that one. I did listen to that one. And yeah, that was an interesting point. Like,
yeah, like for whom? It's just so, again, so simple, but yet it's enough to crack a old pattern or old way of thinking or, and hopefully start giving me the opportunity to go in a different route or to take a certain path or to make a decision and do some action I've been putting off because I didn't
mhm,
think I was enough. Okay, for
right,
who? And if I can answer that, then maybe it would stop me. But if I can't answer it, then why can't I move forward?
right, right.
It's,
Yeah,
yeah, just like I said,
that
when
was
we speak this stuff out loud, it is just the most irrational and absurd thing ever. What we do to ourselves in between our head, in between our ears. Like,
there's self-talk. Absolutely. I've been talking to myself for almost 50 years now. So.
yeah, and many, at least for me, many of it was very negative or,
Mhm,
not enhancing my life in any way. I mean, it took
right.
me, again, it's still a journey. I still have to catch myself and redirect my thoughts, but
Mhm.
it's been a journey I've been on for a very long time. So, viewers, listeners, don't expect it to happen overnight because it's not. It might.
Yeah.
You might be a lucky one, but
Yeah.
it's going to be one little choice at a time, one little moment at a time.
Mhm. I I think I was kind of surprised by all the different topics that she talks about in the book. Like it's not just a thesis on the let them theory,
Hmm.
but it is talking about friendships, talking
Yes.
about emotional reactions. I, I'm hoping that you wrote this down because I don't have my notes with me.
Go
Um,
ahead.
but
I'll tell you.
there was a part in there where she talked about our, like when we have an emotion, it sits with us for I think 90 seconds.
Yes. Yes.
And that is during that time, we have the ability to say, okay, that I'm done with that emotion, or
Hmm.
I'm just going to keep working on this and I'm just going to keep
Hmm.
let it fester and I'm going to
Hmm.
be angry. Um, do you have more on that one? Because
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
found it
That
really
was
fascinating.
one
I
of my
almost wanted to go back to
points.
reread it.
So thank you.
Good.
That's one of my points. Yeah,
Good.
that's the advantage of reading it is I like dog ear things and highlight things and
I
that kind of
know.
stuff.
Always
But
about
when you're listening to it, that's not possible. But So yeah, she said, and I don't know if I'm saying it right or not, but an emotion by definition is only a chemical burst in your mind and your body. So you're getting that cascade of chemicals through your system, like a 6 second burst. And then the emotion itself only lasts for 90 seconds. But I think sometimes we think it's going to last forever and it's never going to stop. And maybe that's why we fear that emotional burst, that cascade of chemicals. We are afraid we're never going to be able to break out of it. I don't know, but
Yeah, um, well, there are certainly some emotions that are going to sit with us for a while. I'm thinking of my
yes.
own grief journey.
Yes,
And,
yes.
sadness is not going to go away in 90 seconds. It's not
Mhm.
something
Right.
that was going to be turned off.
Mhm.
What I did have control over was anger,
Mhm.
at little things. Um, you know, if somebody says something to me or said something to me, how was I going to respond?
Mhm.
If I felt attacked or offended by that, can I just feel that for 90 seconds and then I don't need to be offended by that? Like there are some emotions, some reactions that we really can feel it, let it go.
Mhm. Well, I think just intellectually knowing that it is temporary and this is what's happening within our body, at least can give me permission to be
Mhm.
like, oh, I understand now. I don't have to let it go too long. I mean, if I choose to, that's fine. If I
Mhm.
need to revisit it, fine. But just knowing that chemically, it's really not a long-term thing. So for me, that's empowering. For somebody else,
Yeah.
that might not be, but just that understanding in and of itself was very helpful for me.
Yeah, that was some new knowledge that I'd never heard that before. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I found it a little fascinating, but
Yeah, it is fascinating.
yeah.
Let's see what other, that's funny. We both picked up on that. This was interesting. Don't let someone's emotional immaturity dictate your life, your choices, your thoughts, because somebody else, like that woman that was giving you the finger, that was very emotionally immature on her part. And
Mhm.
not to let her emotional immaturity affect your day, which some people could. That might have
Yeah,
happened to you in the past where somebody flipped you off and you held on to it into the next day and you kept telling people about it and it just kept spinning and
right.
spinning and spinning. But she's suggesting again that let me make the choice for myself if I'm going to hold on to that or not.
Yep. And she said most adults have the emotional maturity of an 8-year-old. And when I think about it, I'm like, yeah, they really do.
Yep.
It's true.
Yep.
And I'm sure that there are times when my emotions
hmm
will mimic an 8-year-old too, you
Yeah.
know.
And I have thought of that in the past. We have these adult looking bodies, but
Mhm.
inside we're not fully emotionally, adults. Like you said, we're only 8 year olds. And it kind of
Mhm.
allows me to be more compassionate to other people and more
Mhm.
understanding and more forgiving.
Because not everybody has had somebody to help them
Right. Exactly.
understand their emotions
Exactly.
and understand how to handle their emotions.
Yes. Oh my gosh. That's why everybody needs to read this book, in my opinion. I know in my household growing up, emotions were not, and we had them, but we had to muffle them, not express them, any negative ones at least. The positive ones were okay. That was fair game, but
You're allowed to
negative
laugh.
ones, think my mom was not able to handle those. So
Mhm.
therefore it was not allowable. And I'm not blaming her. I hold no animosity towards the way she handled it. And I've heard other people say something very similar in their childhood. Emotions are just not a thing to talk about, let alone learn, as you just said, how to handle them, how to manage them, be any way in any fashion whatsoever close to being mature in our
Right,
emotions. So if you can't talk about it, you can't be mature about it and handle them.
right. And, know, your mom, others, other parents, they may not have been taught that themselves. So
Exactly. Oh, I'm sure they
they
weren't. Yeah,
didn't know how to handle their emotions.
exactly.
And we don't talk about them very
No, we
often,
don't.
at least in my experiences.
Mm-hmm.
It, oh, yes, have your emotions, but what do I do with them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How am I supposed to react with
Hmm.
things?
Again, this is a great tool, great information, great knowledge that we can use to break the pattern,
Mhm.
break the cycle, so future generations or people around us can see the way we do things. And if we're saying, like, let them, okay, now let me, like, if they can see that being modeled, then that's going to help them possibly use that same phrase or whatever, to help
Yep.
them.
I think about a couple of former coworkers are kind of popping into my head because they always had this almost a let them attitude, um, or demeanor even. I mean, it wasn't,
Mhm.
I don't know, attitude sounds a little rough maybe sometimes, but just this way about them that things just rolled off their back.
Mm.
I'm like, I was always amazed by that because that
Mm-hmm.
was not me. I, um, I could leave work at work, but at work, I could let things fester.
Mm.
And, if I'm a nurse, so, if a patient irritated me in the morning, by the time I left, I was probably still a little bit irritated.
Mm-hmm.
Then I get in the car, and that's where I let everything go. Like
No.
that was
Mm-hmm.
I did not I was not going to take work home with me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I started all over the next morning. But yeah, it's those other people though, or those other nurses that I worked with, I'm like, how do you do that?
Well, I'm sure
Like, so easy.
that's a survival technique for people in your field.
Maybe.
You're dealing with emotions all the time, I'm sure, from patients, from family members, from other, your peer group. And yeah, you have to keep it together in that
Mhm.
moment, in that environment. But I applaud you for letting it go, knowing for yourself you had to let that go in the car. You couldn't bring it back with you.
Yeah. Yeah. No. There was I was not going to put any of that stuff onto my husband. Like that was
Hmm.
just rule that I that I had. And for the most, I mean, maybe it started with HIPAA because wasn't allowed to talk about patients
Good point.
anyway.
Hmm.
So if I can't talk about them, I might as well leave it alone. Leave it at work. So
Yeah, and I know I have a sister who's a paramedic, and her significant other is in that same field. They see a lot of crap, which you
sure.
have too, I'm sure, as first responders and all that. And they don't always process it. I mean, we had a conversation a couple weeks ago about a severe accident that he went to. She didn't. She just heard about it. And I said, like, does he talk to somebody? Like, is there somebody he can connect with to support him? And she goes, oh, no, 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 we don't do that. Like they know they need to, but they don't. They don't deal with
Mhm.
it. They don't process the emotion, which is going down another path. But I just felt
Yeah.
really bad because he even knew for himself that, oh, that was some really bad stuff, you know. But where is that going? What's happening there for him, you know,
Yep.
emotionally?
Yep. Yeah.
Mm.
That's where I come in as a holistic coach for healthcare professionals.
There you go.
You can give them my name and number, Teresa.
I will do that. But I just thought that was sad that
No, it is.
there's
Yeah.
no mechanism in place to
Mhm.
help people through that, to
Yeah.
let them process their emotions and figure out what to do with what they just saw or witnessed or was part of or whatever.
Yeah.
We tend to be dismissive of that in our culture, in our society,
Mhm.
and that's sad. Maybe that's why there's so many people that are emotionally immature. That's another part of it, feeding into that, you know.
Well,
Um,
yeah. Yeah. Because that is a lot to carry
mhm.
when you've seen trauma like
Yes,
that. And
yes.
especially I mean, as a first responder, they're
Mhm.
seeing trauma almost daily.
Yes, yes.
And if, you know, when you don't get those opportunities to process and to talk through, to debrief, then
Debrief, that's a good phrase. So yeah, we are grateful for people like you that can take somebody's
oh,
hand and walk them through that process. So I do want to give you the opportunity to share with our listeners and our viewers how they can connect with you and what you're doing out there in the world.
sure, sure. Well, I am a nurse and I have started my coaching practice as a holistic coach in life and health for female healthcare professionals, specifically because that's who I am. And
Mm-hmm.
I've, you know, been doing this as a nurse for 21 years now, as a coach for just a year. So getting started, but really wanting to make a difference, because so many of our healthcare professionals they're leaving the field.
Mm,
It's, it's hard. And I think, you know, being able to talk with them, being able to work with them to, find out for some, the profession is just not this, it's not the same. And
mhm.
is that really the place where they need to be? Or are they there because they don't know anything else?
Right, right. Good point.
Um, and they're scared.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's
So
when you need to make a decision and maybe try something else. Yes, that's very scary. But
it
it's good to
is.
know there's
I've done that
people
too.
like you out there. So
Um,
what platforms, how can people connect with you? I know we will take your contact info and any links you want to share and put them in the description with this
yeah,
recording, but if you just want to tell people how they can get a
sure.
hold
You
of
can
you.
find me on LinkedIn. That's going to be my main platform. Amber Williams 09, I think, or it might be Amber Williams 9. I forget which one now. But there's a 9 in there. And because there are like over 1,000 Amber Williamses on
Oh,
LinkedIn, so I'm gonna say it's 9. It's 9.
okay.
Um, and I do have a website. It's thegoldengraph.com, GRAPH graph. And yeah, I love to connect with new people, talk to new people. So
Well, thank you so much. Um,
yeah,
and I'm just going to encourage everybody to go grab this book. I'll drop a link to the book as well in the notes here. And I would love to discuss this book more. I just think it's so impactful. It's so easy. She speaks so down to earth about it. I know there's another woman, her name's Byron Katie. I'm sure you've heard of her. No?
I have not.
She
No.
wrote Loving What Is. Similar concept. She talks about the businesses. Whose business are you in? Your business, other people's business, or God's business? and we need to stay in our lane and be in our business. So it's a very similar concept. Again, allowing people to be themselves, let them be in their own business. And we don't need to be there. But
Yeah, yeah,
so that's another book. It's different, but it's again similar idea and similar tool to help us be less stressed
yeah.
in interacting with other people. So totally encourage everybody to grab the book. If you're interested in talking more about it, I would love to have a little book discussion. Anybody who's listening, if you're interested in a book discussion to just talk about different pieces that you found impactful, please let me know. You can leave a comment in the notes. You can get a hold of me on the different platforms. I actually did pick a date. I will say the date, but depending on when you're watching this recording or listening to this, whether it will be available to you or not. But April 17th, 2025 is a time for me that I would love to get on and chat with whoever, a group of people, like a book discussion, not an ongoing, just a one time. And that would be at 7 Eastern time. So if you want more information about that, make sure you reach out to me and I can give you more details. But thank you so much, Amber. I so appreciate you jumping
This
on
was
and
fun.
talking about this with me.
Thank you for the invite.
Absolutely have loved it and enjoyed it. So thank you. Thank you what you're doing out there in the world. And thank you everybody for listening. If you found this useful and beneficial, you know somebody who might benefit from this, please share this video, like, subscribe, do all that stuff you're supposed to do when you find somebody you like on YouTube or whatever platform you're catching this on. All right, my friends, thank you so much and we'll see you in another episode. Bye-bye.
Bye.